Hi y'all, welcome to my YouTube channel, Little Ways, Little Things. I am so excited because Halloween season is here. Halloween is in the air, it's in the air everywhere. Everywhere you look, you see pumpkins and bats and skulls. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I am loving this vintage movie theater poster. I don't know if it's a movie trailer poster or whatever. It actually hung on the wall of a theater back in the 70s when the original Halloween movie came out. And thank you so much to my son and my son-in-law and my daughter for finding it and framing it for me. I absolutely love it. If you haven't finished decorating your house for Halloween, I have a great idea for 2 easy, simple, and inexpensive decorations that you can make. Most of this stuff comes from Dollar Tree, but you might even have some of it right in your own home already. These are super simple and super inexpensive, and I know that they will kind of make your home a little bit more festive for the season. One of them you can even change from kind of creepy into kind of farmhouse. So I hope you will enjoy that. If you happen to make one of these projects, please tag me in Instagram so I can see what yours looks like or what your version looks like. And make sure that you subscribe to my channel and hit that bell down below, because the next video that's coming out in a couple of days is my Halloween tour. I'm so excited to show you my house for Halloween, so I hope that you'll subscribe and stick around for all the fun we have going on here. I think these candles look so high-end and so creepy. We're going to learn how to make these first. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to print out the images that I want to appear on the candle. Now I found this raven and this skull on Pinterest, and I will link them down below. They were free for personal use, but you can find so many different images to fit anything that you could possibly want just by doing a search on Pinterest for Halloween printables or vintage Halloween printables or Halloween ephemera, and it will just produce tons and tons of options for you. The next thing you want to make sure is whatever size you can adjust your picture. Like my raven, I'm adjusting in bigger or smaller. That's the size when I print it out that it's going to transfer onto the candle as. So you want this to be true to size. So I think I'm actually going to make him a tiny bit smaller because the candles I'm using are super small. The next thing is I want to type the word Nevermore next to the raven. The problem is the process for this is that you print out the images and then cut them out. So I'll print out the raven, cut him out, but then I'll flip him over onto the candle. And the problem is if I type the word Nevermore and I cut it out and flip it onto the candle, it'll be backwards. So let me show you a trick how you can mirror it so that it will come out the way you want it. You go over here to Insert and you hit Insert Text Box, just a simple text box, and it pulls up this simple text box. You have to use a text box. You can't just type it onto the paper. You have to put it inside of a text box. So let me remove this excess verbiage here and type in the word Nevermore. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to Shape Outline, click on that and hit No Outline because I don't want this black text box line to show up on my candle. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight Nevermore, and I'm going to change the size because remember I want it to be true to size. Whatever size it is on this paper is what size I want it to be on the candle. So I'm going to hit 36 because I kind of eyeballed it earlier and I think that's a pretty good size. It's pretty proportionate to the raven and I think it's going to work. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it again and go to the font. I think that's not nearly spooky enough, so I found this Blackadder ITC. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I'm going to change the font to Blackadder ITC. And then I'm going to go up here to Text Effects, hit Text Effects and 3D Rotation. Now I'm going to go all the way down here to 3D Rotation and hit that again, and it's going to bring up this sidebar. I'm going to go to X Rotation, and change it from 0 to 180 degrees. You can see that as soon as I do that, it flips the word, it mirrors it over here. So that's all there is to it. Now, when I go to cut this individual word out and cut out this raven and flip them over, they'll be right side up on the candle. The next thing you do is take a regular sheet of printer paper and then you place it on top of a piece of tissue paper, and yes, I mean tissue paper, the kind you wrap presents in or stuff into gift bags. You just cut the tissue paper a little bit larger than the 8.5 by 11 printer paper. You place the printer paper on top of the tissue paper and then wrap it like a present. And I know it sounds crazy, but bear with me, it's gonna work. So you wrap up the printer paper like a little present with the tissue paper, and I'm using washi tape to secure it down. You could also probably use Scotch tape or painter's tape, but the washi tape is just super easy to work with. So I'm going to get the printer paper all wrapped up with the tissue paper, and then I am going to print out the images that I have made on my Word document and just send it through the printer the regular way, just like you would any other item you were printing. So here it is all printed on the tissue paper, and before I remove the tissue from the printer paper, I'm going to cut all of the various pieces out. I wound up printing the skull on another piece of paper, but I'm going to cut out the raven, the skull, and the Nevermore and get them ready to go on the candle. I have my tissue paper images, a cylindrical candle, and an embossing heat tool by the Paper Studio that came from Hobby Lobby. You can probably try to use an extremely hot hairdryer. That's what I would recommend if you don't have a heat tool, or just use a coupon and grab one. They're super inexpensive. I'll link it down below. The next thing I'm going to do is pick up one of the tissue paper images and flip it ink side down onto the candle. You can see where I flipped the raven over, and now I'm flipping over the Nevermore so that it is ink side down on the candle. And you can see why that mirroring technique was so important, because when I went to flip it over, it would be backwards if I hadn't mirrored it first before I printed it. Next, I'm going to go over the image lightly with the heat tool, and you can see even on the camera how it immediately melds to the camera. It sort of melts into it. It is super cool. It's like magic. You can see the image darkening. It does not take long. That thing is super hot though, so you might want to use an oven mitt. I covered the image with a piece of parchment paper to kind of make sure that it was back in a cylindrical shape. It does sort of distort a little bit, but after I rolled it on the parchment paper, it's just right back to normal. It's super cool. I had one issue. The issue I had was the little corner of his foot. The tissue paper was bent upward, and I didn't have it pushed down well enough to the candle, so it kept sticking up. So you'll see that I tried to go back over it again, and that heat gun is so super hot that it's actually going to burn the piece of tissue that was sticking up. You see that little burn there? So I didn't want that to show on the candle, so I tried a couple things. What I wound up doing is just cutting it off, and I cut it right down to where it was attached to the candle, and I didn't even need to go over it again with the heat gun. But once again, that heat gun is super hot, so be so careful with it. Now I'm going to flip the Nevermore over, ink side down again. I'm going to use the parchment paper this time because it was kind of moving around and it didn't want to sit there really securely like the raven did. So I'm going to use the parchment paper, and you can see how quickly it goes from light gray to dark black, and then it adheres to the candle. It is like magic. I think it is one of the super coolest techniques I have ever seen. Next, we're going to make this set of candle holders that spells out boo. The staging is really where this project shines, but for now I'll show you how to do the basics. You take a piece of vellum, which as you can see is like paper, but it is see-through. You might sometimes see them in wedding invitations or graduation invitations. This came from Hobby Lobby. That's what it looks like. I just measured the size of a cylindrical glass candle holder. They have tons of them at the Dollar Tree. I bought 3 of them and measured the length and width, and then cut a piece of vellum so that it would go fit right inside. Then I'm using my Cricut to really quickly cut out the letters B-O-O. If you don't have a Cricut, you can obviously just print it out on your computer and trace it onto a piece of black construction paper and cut it out. But I have a Cricut, so I did use the Cricut to cut out the letters B-O-O. Now I'm just finding the middle of my vellum, and I'm going to just mark a little spot where I want the B to sit, and I want the letters to all sit in the same place when they're lined up. So that's why I'm kind of being a little bit careful and measuring to make sure that all 3 letters will sit in the same place when they're lined up in a row. So I'm just using my regular adhesive. Use whatever you have, glue, a glue stick, your whatever kind of crafting adhesive you use. And I have glued the B down, and now I glued the O down, and I'm just double and triple checking that they all line up straight, because I'm so OCD. If one of them was not straight, I would not be able to display it or handle that in the least. So I actually even put the vellum stacked up on top of each other to make sure they all line up really, really, really precisely. I will try to look up the font that I used and put it in the comments down below. I can't really remember offhand, but I'll look it up. After I have the letters adhered to the vellum, I'm just going to slip them inside the cylindrical glass candle holder. Like I said, I got these from Dollar Tree. I got 3 of them. They're $1 each. I am actually going to run some adhesive down the edge of the vellum so that when I put the vellum inside the candle holder, I can press it down and it'll be just in the right place. This is the most basic craft. It's something I did when my kids were super little and I didn't have hardly any money or any resources. It's so basic, but you can dress it up super cute. I'm putting this Dollar Tree battery operated votive in here, but as you can see, I put it on the side. That's a little trick so that you can get a little more bang for your buck. It'll show up better. I'm using some Krylon chalkboard paint that is just like leftover that I had in my garage to spray paint this Dollar Tree charger. It was $1. It's a rectangular charger at Dollar Tree. You can paint it or just use whatever you have laying around the house that will paint it whatever color you want. You can paint it black or orange. I just happen to have this black spray paint, so that's what I used. Here it is. It looks so eerie and so cute. I used some Dollar Tree eyeballs to dress it up and make it look creepy and scary, but here I used a few farmhouse touches to make it look scary but more farmhousey. You can do it either way. Tag me on Instagram and let me know if you make it, which way you wanted to do it, or how you dressed it up. It's such a basic project, but you can do so much with it and have so much fun with it. Here's how I've styled the other 2 candles. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you think this is just the coolest technique for decorating candles. I just loved it. I can see using these candles and printing out all kinds of images for other holidays and just everyday decor. I wanted to style my dining room table in kind of an adult manner because I don't have any little kids around for Halloween, so I went with this Edgar Allan Poe theme, and I think the candles just look great. I can't wait to just sit around with my adult kids and my hubby and drink some wine and enjoy the season. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a big thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to hit the bell down below because my next video will be a Halloween home tour and you don't want to miss it.